everyone, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette. If you're new to my channel, welcome to my English country garden. And if you're a regular subscriber, then hi, I'm back. I thought I'd give everybody an update today on seedlings. So I thought I'd show you some of the hardy perennials and one annual that I sowed earlier on this year and show you what they're looking like in the garden. There aren't very many of them. Then I thought I'd give you an update on the Clematis seeds that I got from Allah in Ukraine, and I'll show you how those are doing. And then I thought I'd also show you at the end of the video how my biennial seeds are doing that I sowed back in June and July. Let's go through that. What I will do is I'll put the names up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about, and if I can't remember the date that I sowed something, then I'll put that up on the screen as well, because it's hard to remember all the details like that. I do want to say thank you to everybody who responded to my video where I was asking whether you like having the names up on the screen, and so many people said yes. In fact, nobody said no, don't do it. So I'm going to carry on putting the names up on the screen because I think it's helpful when other people do that, so I like to do it for everyone too. So let's get cracking. We're going to start looking at the Penstemon that I sowed last year. I'll put the date up on the screen of when I sowed them. I sowed loads. I think I sowed at least 8 varieties. I can't remember. Only 2 of them germinated. Now I don't know whether that was my error or whether the seeds were just too old. I am definitely going to try and sow Penstemon again this year, but let me show you the 2 that did germinate and how they're doing in the garden. So this is my warmer border here, and it's a pretty miserable day, but I think that the colours really shine out on a miserable day like today. It's very cloudy. It was sunny a little earlier on this morning, but we're going to be looking at these Penstemon here. This is a Penstemon called Twizzle Coral, and it's a hardy perennial that I grew from seed, and it is, it's at least 80 centimetres maybe. Yeah, I haven't measured it. It's about 80 centimetres tall, so it's really grown well. Let's take a closer look at it. So I think this Penstemon is going particularly well with everything around it. This is a dahlia called Myrtle's Folly over here, and these dahlias over here, some of them are Penhill watermelon. I've also got peaches and April heather. This Penstemon at the back here is called something apple blossom. I'll put the name up on the screen because it's not the actual apple blossom, it's something else apple blossom, but it's a gorgeous sort of white and pink Penstemon. So these have been flowering for quite some time now, and they are a gorgeous pinky coral colour. I mean, they really are so pretty. There are loads of flowers on each stem. So this is one that's been flowering for a long time, but this is one stem here, and it's just got the most gorgeous flowers. They're so pretty. So this is 3 plants in this grouping, but actually what we can see here, this main lot here, is just 1 plant. So there is sort of 1 plant at the back there. It's got about 3 flower spikes, and then there's another one tucked in the back there that's not doing quite so well. I think it's got smothered by everything else that's at the back there, particularly the cosmos, which isn't flowering. This is my only cosmos that has decided to not flower. I don't know why. Everything else has flowered really well. So I think that this is the perfect colour to go with all sorts of things. I also think that the colour looks really nice with pinkier colours. So this scabiosa here, or scabious, pincushion flower is called Burgundy Bow, and I think that the Twizzle Coral goes really nicely with that. I've also got a Nicotiana over here, and the Nicotiana is Crimson Bedder, and I just think everything sort of ties in and picks up the colours really nicely. So I do think that this Penstemon has got quite small little florets, and if we compare it to one of the apple blossoms, we can see that the florets on this are much smaller, but I don't think that takes away from it at all. I think it still looks really pretty. So this 1 plant here at the front has got at least 8 flower spikes. So I think for something that I grew from seed earlier on this year, that is pretty good. I'm very impressed, and also I just think I need more of this in the garden. I think it would go so nicely with some of the purples that I've got further on down there. Like these purples would look really good with this colour. I think it would shine out amongst some whites and other things like that. I just think it was so easy to grow, and I definitely think there are other places I can put it. So let's swing around and look at this bed over here, because this bed has also got another Penstemon that I sowed from seed. Now, unfortunately, this one wasn't placed quite as well, and it's fairly difficult to see it, but I'm going to point to it. It's this plant here. So these are the flowers, and this is a Penstemon called Chocolate Drop. Again, it's got slightly smaller flowers than I'm used to with Penstemons. Now, as you can see also, I only have one flower spike on this at the moment, and I think, in all honesty, this is my fault, because I planted 3 plants down here, but if we take a look down at the base, it's absolutely teeming with other plants. So I've really closely planted dahlias here. There's a phlox in there. That was an early flowering phlox that's still flowering and is buried. And it's right next to some roses. I used Stacia Vi, which I thought it would go really well with. And obviously this Cosmos, which is Cupcake's Blush, is looking glorious, but is probably just stealing a lot of the water. There's also a big Nicotiana at the back there. I think that's lime green. So this poor Penstemon and the other 2 plants that are probably down there somewhere at the bottom, it's just struggling to do well. Chocolate Drop is the most gorgeous purple colour. I just think it's so pretty. I'm happy to put my hand behind it so that we can get it to focus. So I do think this Penstemon's really, really pretty. The colour is sort of a really nice burgundy wine colour. It is very purple. It's not too dark. Like if we compare it to the Physocarpus behind, the Physocarpus is much darker than the Chocolate Drop Penstemon. I think it's incredibly pretty. I really, really like it. It's just a shame that I only got 1 flower spike this year, but this is a hardy perennial, so it's definitely going to come back. Now, if we just imagine that this Penstemon here, there are more of them, don't you think it would look absolutely gorgeous? This is Rebecca Irish Eyes. This is a dahlia called Feline Yvonne. And I just think that it does go incredibly well with all of these flowers. I've got some more of the Nicotiana Crimson Bedder over here. So we are now going to move down to the very corner down here where I've got something else that I grew from seed this year. Now this plant is new to me this year, and it's called Mulla Mulla, or Patulus Joey. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but somebody commented on one of my seed sowing vlogs to say I think that it was native to Australia. It is tiny. It's absolutely tiny. It's so short. It's about, I mean, it's so much shorter than I was expecting. I've got a bit of panicum there in the front. It's so much shorter than I was expecting. I'll also put some pictures up of what it looked like when it was a bit younger, because this is definitely looking a bit old. But that's, I don't know, 15 centimetres. It's so short. I'm not sure whether it's supposed to be as short as that. I wish I'd grown loads more. It's a really, really pretty pink colour, and I think just having a really big bunch of it here would have looked so cute. But as it is, I just haven't got very many. But I do adore these little pink fluffy spikes. Anyway, that's a fun little plant that I'll definitely grow again. I'm just going to grow about 20 of them, I think. So we're now going to go over to the front of the grass border over here. I'm going to ask you to ignore the weeds. This little grass here, and there are a couple of them. So there are 2 that are growing really nicely. There's another one that's sort of growing here. There's one just behind that that's sort of growing. There's definitely one that died here. These were very, very sickly looking grasses that I grew from seed this year. I sowed them on the 12th of March. They're an annual, so they're not going to come back, but maybe they'll self-seed if I get any flowers. This is a foxtail barley. It's called Hordeum jubatum, and it should grow to about 50 centimetres tall. Again, because these were such sad specimens when I put them in, because I hadn't looked after them, I hadn't watered them properly, these are about 15 centimetres tall. So, I mean, you know, a third of a foot probably. They're absolutely tiny. They're about the size of my hand. But these 2 are doing really well, and I have high hopes that I might get some flower spikes before the end of the season, as long as we carry on getting some sun. Anyway, just thought I'd show you in case you were interested, because I did film planting these out, and I just wanted to make sure I updated everybody to show you how they were doing. Loads of people have also been asking me how the anemones are doing that I planted earlier on in the hope of getting some autumn flowers, and these are some of the anemones here. So you can see they've all leafed out. This is Mount Everest over here. I've also got, look at this rose. This rose is so cute. It's called Felicia. Let me just show you that first because I do think it's adorable. This rose is new to me this year and it's certainly taken its time to start flowering properly, but it's looking so pretty. So through the pergola around this side, there are loads more anemones here. All of these here are Mount Everest as well. I also planted some anemones at the front of the dahlia border, and these aren't doing quite as well, but maybe I just didn't plant as many bulbs, but you can see little anemones starting to come through all the way along here. So that's very exciting. I am super excited about having some colour later on in the season. Now I thought I would show you the Clematis. Now these are Clematis that I've grown from seed. I received the seed from a lady called Alla, and Erin from Floret Flower introduced us to her. I say us because, you know, the internet community, and I really wanted to help somebody in Ukraine, a family in Ukraine, like properly help them when the war started, and so I bought some seed from her, and in all honesty I intend to buy some more seed from her because I did not do particularly well with the seed. It's totally my fault, and I'm going to show you the results of my seed sowing. Some's better than others, but this is totally on me and not anything to do with Alla's seed, and you'll be able to see why when I show you what's happened. Okay, so I can't remember which date I sowed these. I will put that up on the screen. All of these are different varieties. I sowed absolutely loads of seeds because I just wanted to give everything a try. They all look so beautiful. Alla takes the most incredible photos of beautiful flowers, and I just wanted everything, so I sowed loads. This is what I have managed to grow on. Now you'll see that some are bigger than others that are absolutely tiny. That one there is minuscule. This is my fault. I've only just potted these on and they have been languishing for ages, and it's just because my focus moved onto other things. So it's totally my fault. These would have grown so much better if I'd potted them on sooner. Anyway, let me show you the really fun ones that are bigger than others. So this one is called Clematis Christa Titipu, which I just think is the cutest name, but this is growing really well. I've also got a Clematis alba that's about the same size. So these are just doing really well. These are in 9cm pots at the moment. So I'm just going to grow these on in these pots over the winter, and then hopefully I can plant them out in the spring. This one here is called Clematis glaucophila. And this one's, you know, it's super healthy. It's just, I feel like it's smaller than it would have been if I'd potted it on sooner. All of these had really good roots when I potted them on. This is Clematis Fascination. Hopefully I'm putting pictures up on the screen so you can see what they're all going to look like. That's if I can find some pictures, because some of these, it's really hard to see what they're going to look like just by searching on the internet. I've got a Clematis Deep Blue. This one, you can see that it's obviously dried out at some point. I didn't water it well enough. I'm just hoping it's going to recover. It's got some healthy new leaves, and a lot of the others are going to look like that. I've got two Clematis Embers. So this is Clematis Ember. This one looks super healthy. This one, again, this dried out at some point. Not as healthy. They're about the same size, but I think they're going to recover. They definitely had good roots. So they're all looking really good. I've got a Clematis called Ragucci. This one, I mean, you can see how much it struggled. I feel so sorry for it, I really do. This is totally my fault and nothing to do with the seeds. And I'm not making excuses, I just know how badly I've treated them. So I've actually got 3 Clematis Deep Blue, 3 Clematis Ragucci, because this tiny one here, I put it in a smaller pot because I didn't want to drown it in a big pot, it's tiny. This is Clematis Viva Paulina, and you can see it's absolutely tiny, and it's my fault for not looking after it. I haven't fed them enough, and I definitely didn't water them as often as I should. This one, I wasn't exactly sure whether it was Clematis Omashiro or not, but I put the label in there, so I'm hoping this one grows because Clematis Omashiro is gorgeous. I have got a Clematis Light Pink. This one, I did have 2 of these and I'm really sad I lost one. You can see how sad this one's looking. You know, it's got dried out leaves and everything. I'm really hoping this one does survive. It's got slightly different leaves to the others. They're not pointy, so I hope it is a clematis and not a weed. I'm not experienced enough to know the difference, but there we go. These are all my clematis. Now you're probably wondering what happened to all the other clematis that I sowed. Now, as I said, I didn't take good enough care of them. The first thing that went wrong was that as they started germinating, we had an onslaught of slugs and snails this spring. And so as everything started germinating, they were just being eaten at night because I had them out in my cold frames and I didn't cover them at night because I thought they needed, you know, the cold and the warm fluctuating temperatures, which they probably did need, but it meant that I lost quite a few of the baby seedlings to slugs, predominantly slugs I found on them. So I lost all of those. That's my fault. I should do better. I need to grow them inside possibly and figure out a way to do that. I'm definitely growing them again, so I'm going to try other things this year. So these are the ones that I managed to save. The other thing that happened, so when that started happening, I then brought all my little seedling trays inside at night, so I refused to leave them out. So they then were growing in my kitchen at night, and then as soon as I woke up in the morning, I'd put them outside on the patio. But then what happened was when we had really warm weather and I was quite ill, some of them fried. So you've seen the results of that. I also lost a few seedlings that I did have because they were very small and it got too hot and they were still in their seed trays. So because I hadn't potted them up, the seed trays just weren't able to retain enough moisture and I wasn't looking after them well enough because I just didn't have any energy. Excuses, but that's what happened. I think these are going to turn into nice healthy plants. I am carrying on with bringing them inside at night because I feel like some of them are just too tiny. I don't want to leave them out. So I'm going to baby these and I'm going to put them in my greenhouse over winter, protect them from slugs and snails. Hopefully they'll be a bit bigger by then. And I will keep you updated with how these do, and I'll keep you updated when I order some new seeds and hopefully start growing those. So let's now go and look at the biennials that I sowed back in June and July, and I'll put the date up on the screen that I sowed each one and I'll show you what's happened with those. I completely forgot to update you on the Francoa that I sowed. So I sowed 3 different varieties of Francoa. I was super excited when they started growing. Let me show you the results of this experiment. So again, this is another situation where these should have been potted up so much sooner. They, poor things, have been languishing literally in seed trays. I mean, look how large they managed to get just in a seed tray. I've now bumped them up. These are slightly bigger than 9cm pots. They're probably 1 litre pots. Anyway, all of these are Francoa Rogerson's form. Francoa is a bridal wreath. It's got beautiful, beautiful spires of really long lasting, great for cutting flowers. This one's a lovely pink colour. This is my biggest one. I can't believe that I grew this in just a tiny little seed cell, but I did. So even though I sowed loads of seeds and I sowed 3 different varieties, this is what I have left. Now I am actually really pleased with this. I've got 7 plants and you know, that's 7 plants that I don't have to buy. These are really long lasting flower spikes in flower arrangements. They look beautiful in the garden and I'm so happy to have been able to grow these from seed. I'm definitely going to try again because they're quite robust plants, because as I said, I abandoned these, left them in their seed trays for far too long. Literally all year they've been in their seed trays. Now I have been feeding them in the seed trays, but they really did need more compost, they needed more nutrients, and you know, they were very, very root bound when I took them out. So I am absolutely delighted with this experiment. Lovely hardy perennials to have in my garden. So let's get on to the biennials, which are in the cold frames behind me. So these 2 trays here had my Lunaria or Honesty, and you can see that they got absolutely decimated by slugs and snails. So these 6 on this side, this is Chedglow, and you can see that I've got 1 seedling that's just popped up. This is 1 actual seedling that survived. A lot of the others got eaten. I put like 2 or 3 into each pot. So these little tiny things are weeds, just seeds that have blown in. On this side, this is the Rediviva. These 6 pots here are the Rediviva, which I think is the hardy perennial. I think this is a weed, but I've left it just in case because I've not grown this before, so I'm not sure what it looks like. But all the tiny little things, they're all weeds. This is a running theme. These 6 on this side here, these 6 pots, are the purple Lunaria. So you can see where everything's just been eaten. It's just so sad and so annoying that everything got munched so badly. All the little tiny things are weeds. I do need to pull those out just to make sure that, you know, the odd seedling that's surviving does better. These are the white ones. I've had slightly better success with the white ones. So this one here is looking quite strong. I've got 2 in this pot. This one here has been munched, but it's coming back. I don't think the others, because I put a couple of seeds into each one, I'm just looking to see whether they germinate. That's the only reason I've kept these pots. But these have just done really badly because I allowed them to get eaten overnight by slugs and snails. So next time I sow them, I'm going to definitely cover them at night. So over on this side, these are all my Sweet Williams that germinated. Now I sowed absolutely loads of these, but I had a disaster with the Sweet Williams when I was sowing them and they kind of blew everywhere. Or was that the wallflowers? I don't know. But I just haven't taken good enough care of them. And if you don't look after your seedlings, they're not going to survive. So I'll tell you what I do have. So I've got 4 Sweet Williams Super Duplex mix. I've got 5 of the Newport Pink, and I've got 3 of the Sooty, which is a lovely dark colour. I really wanted loads of the Newport Pink, so I'm going to re-sow these. Now I know that it's September, but I think I can still sow them and get away with it if I look after them better this time. So that's what I'm going to do. Over here at the back, I've got a couple more of the Sweet William trays. Now I've left these because they're such tiny seedlings. I'm not sure whether they're plants or weeds. So I've kept these trays. I will re-sow them, but these have just been outside for so long. I feel like weed seeds have blown in, as we saw with the Honesty pots. There are loads of weed seeds everywhere, so I can't be sure whether these are Sweet William or not. So I've got a very similar situation with the Sweet Rocket. So I've sowed 2 trays of white and 2 trays of the violet. I'm not entirely sure. I think some of these, the furry ones, let me see if I can show you. So if they've got fairy leaves like this one here, then they definitely are Sweet Rocket seeds, but I don't know whether these other tiny ones are Sweet Rockets or weeds. So as I said, I'm just leaving them to figure it out as things grow. It'll be easy to identify them after that. So then let me show you the wallflowers, because I've got a whole tray of wallflowers. There's still some in the seed trays. We had to pack up and I didn't get round to moving those on this weekend. And I've got more wallflowers over here. So let me tell you what I managed to germinate, because that's super exciting. So with the wallflowers, these 3 rows here, I've got 12 of the bicolour purple mix, which is super exciting. I've got 2 ivory white. I've got 3 primrose bedder. And then on the end, I've got Little Kiss lilac. Now these ones here are Ray's Early Giants, and I just haven't potted them on yet. So all of these were in trays like that up until this weekend. Now these would be much bigger if I potted them on sooner. They just really were lacking in nutrients. And down here I've got more of the Little Kiss lilacs, and I've put them in smaller pots because they were such tiny little seedlings, but I wanted to move them on to make sure that they had sufficient room and nutrients to grow. And again, these had really good root systems when I moved them on, so I think they're going to be fine. I just need to learn to pot things on sooner. So I've had some more seedlings that I forgot that I had. Occupational hazard when you sow so many things, but they're also in the cold frames at the moment because they're quite little. These would have done much better again if I'd potted them up sooner. They've been in tiny seed trays. They just didn't get into the flower beds when they should have done. I ran out of time and room and space and energy, so they've been languishing in seed trays. So they're much smaller than they would be if you sowed them and potted them on when you're supposed to. So that's just in case you're feeling like they look disappointing. They are, but it's totally my fault. So the seedlings that I want to show you are the Aquilegia, where I saved seeds from a particular variety that I found in the corridor flower bed that I think is really special, and I've searched high and low online to see whether I can find anything that looks similar, and I can't. So I think it's quite special. I'm going to put a picture up on the screen of what it looked like. I'm currently calling it Aquilegia Cottoverdi. That's probably not a name that's going to stick, but what I did was I saved some seed and I sowed them earlier on, and I've been growing them on. Now, I don't think they necessarily are going to produce exactly the same plant because they probably got pollinated by other aquilegias nearby. So they're probably not going to be the same, but I'm still very interested to see what they're going to look like. And let me show you the seedlings. So this is one of my seedlings. They all look similar. Let me show you. I've got 3 really healthy ones and one that just looks a little bit tiny. So these 4 here are the Aquilegia Cottoverdi. I mean, this is minuscule, but hopefully it will grow into something. It definitely had a root system. Again, I left them in the pots too long. If you're wondering what these are Aridon Covinscanus that I also sowed from seeds, and these are just ones that I didn't plant out into the flower bed. So I should have shown you those too really, but I planted loads of Aridon Covinscanus into my borders this year, and they're all doing really well. The ones that didn't get eaten by slugs and snails are looking wonderful, but I'm just saving these because I've always got more space for Aridon Covinscanus. So I'll show you what the Aridon looks like. I planted it underneath the rose arch here. I wanted to create sort of this fairy fluffy border right below the roses. Let me show you what they look like. Some of them did get eaten by slugs and snails, and I panicked and grabbed some plug plants from another supplier and planted those on one side, but I can show you what the ones on the other side look like. So here, in amongst the weeds and things that have self-seeded and all the rose petals, I just love the rose petals, they just look so pretty. But here is the Aridon that I grew from seed this year. So you can see that if we plant it out in good time, actually they do pretty well, and these would just make much, much bigger plants next year. And there are also even more of them down on this corner, so these survived. I think the ones in the middle didn't do as well. I can see one plant here, but it hasn't got any flowers. But there sort of should be a whole row along here, and they just got eaten. I didn't realise that the slugs and snails were going to attack them, but they did. Over on this side, this is where I panicked and quickly bought some plugs, and you can see that the plugs have done so much better, and they've created really nice plants. I just think when I've got a whole row of these underneath the rose arch on both sides, it's just going to look so, so pretty. I mean, you can hardly see them because they're quite small plants, but I know these are going to do really well, and let me show you why I know they're going to do well. So one of the reasons why I love Aridon Covinscanus is because this is a very, very shaded spot, this side of a massive yew tree. And I planted Aridon along here ages and ages ago, and then I took it all out because I realised it was in the wrong place. But this plant keeps coming back every single year, and in fact there's one over here as well. And I think once the root is in there, you're always going to have it. But they continue to grow. I mean, they probably get a little bit of afternoon sun, but they're pretty much, I mean, they're right underneath this yew tree. They're completely underneath and they're still growing. So I think Aridon Covinscanus is just going to grow anywhere because it grows in an almost deep shade here underneath these yew trees. So I'm absolutely certain that it's going to be brilliant underneath the rose arch, and that's why I've kept the seedlings that I haven't planted, because I think I can just dot them anywhere. I really hope you've enjoyed this seedling update, and if you've got any questions at all, then please do leave them in the comments below. I'm going to be sowing loads more seeds in the next few weeks because now is the time to start sowing our hardy annuals as well. So do come along for that. Subscribe to my channel if you'd like to get any of that information, and if you've enjoyed this video, give it a like. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. So they all pretty much look like this. Now, as I said, oh my God, there's a snail on there. And a slug. Get off. What is wrong with this place?